Do you want to know how much money you can make in publishing? Well, keep watching this video. Hi there, my name is Andrew. I'm the publisher at Black Panel Press, an independent graphic novel publishing company. And in this video, I want to walk you through something I've created that I call my publishing ROI calculator. So in publishing, as you might already know if you're starting your self-publishing journey, there are a lot of different moving parts. It can be very expensive to participate in this business. And so I created this worksheet to be able to help me keep track of all the different expenses that are going to be involved and to get an idea of how much money I'll be able to make in my publishing efforts. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I'll show you how to use this publishing ROI calculator, and you'll be able to download this at the end of the video.
So there's a lot going on in here. It could be a little bit confusing, but if you just stick to mainly just editing these yellow cells, then that should auto-populate everything else that you need, and you'll be able to do all the calculations that you need here. Okay, so basically imagine this is a real scenario here. So I'm going to be reprinting Illegal Cargo in October, and so I'm thinking of doing 2,000 units. I like to play around with some different scenarios of how many units per month I'll sell. I'll start pretty conservative here and do 20. All right, and then I'll set a price at $30. I'll set a printing cost as well. So I'll because we're currently in April and the book is coming out in October, that gives me lots of time to get quotes and compare different printers. So I might get a printing quote here from a printer in Montreal that's probably going to be a little bit higher, but their quality is very good and their lead time is very good. Or I might decide that it's better to print in Asia. So I can plug in the different unit costs from the different quotes that I receive from printers here. So at this cost, let's assume that I'm going to be producing this in Canada, in Montreal. And then this is our storage cost per unit per month. There are a couple different ways that you can calculate that, and that's why I've created this second tab, storage fee calculator. The most typical ways are there's billing per square foot per month. This is the way that Amazon uses for calculating your storage fees. And at the time of this recording, it's $6.90 per cubic foot. And let's just update that. Okay, so if we have a box that is 9 by 12 by 12 inches, and that holds 20 units, 20 copies of your book, and that will be 15 cubic feet. That gives us, we plug in the cost per cubic foot from Amazon, and then this will return to us the cost per unit per month, so it'll be 35 cents. Another common way that you might be billed is per carton per month. So you can plug in these values here. It's not really that important in this case. Actually, it's a much simpler calculation. All you need to know is the quantity and the cost per carton that the warehouse is going to bill you, and then you'll get your cost per unit per month. And then just come back and plug that in here. You plug those four values in here, and this will spit out all of this extra information. So you can see that in my case, my annual return on investment is only 1.08%. This is a really poor return on investment. Almost any investment will give you this. Even most savings accounts will give you this kind of return on investment. So if this was the case, I would not invest in this book at this rate. At least I'm not losing money, which is good. But you can see that if I'm selling about 20 books per month, then I'm going to take about 8.3 years to sell that to get my money back. Overall, even though I am also borrowing money to finance this printing, and here I put in my annual interest rate, or often referred to as APR, at 10%. So that gets calculated into the net present value here. So this is a financial concept which basically incorporates the time value of money into your return. Okay, so if I am not borrowing any money, I think generally you can just add in a value of 0 here. Okay, and it'll tell you how long it's going to take to sell the inventory, what is your total lifetime storage cost based on this storage cost per unit, and give you a net profit here, a net present value, which again takes into account the cost of borrowing and the time that it takes. and then you'll produce your annual return on investment. So usually it's 2023, and a lot of savings accounts now are giving you an interest rate of between 2 and 5%. If you put your money in the S&P 500 or the stock market, usually that's going to provide a return of 8 to 10%. So you'll definitely want to make sure that your ROI is going to be higher than that, and usually significantly higher than that, because if you put your money in the stock market, that doesn't require any work for you to get that return on investment. But whereas if you invest in publishing, that's going to take a lot of time and energy to get that return. So you'll want to have something, I think you should target something at least at 30%, if not 50% or more. So if I get a quote from our Chinese printer, and then I get a unit cost a little bit lower of, let's say, we'll probably be able to get something around the $7 mark. Okay, and then if we're able to increase the price, so I'm usually, in my example, I'm using Canadian dollars, but it'll work with any currency. So you can just plug in your own values in US dollars, for example. So let's say if I want to price this at $30 US, which right now will be about 40 Canadian, okay, that gives me an annual ROI of 5.64%. The other thing is I'm pretty confident that I can sell more than 20 copies per month of this book, so I'll do 100 here. Okay, and then you'll see that taking into account our net margin, which actually pulls from this table below, then our annual return on investment is 56%. Now this is something that's more worthwhile to invest in, significantly higher than you'd get on the stock market, but of course always keep in mind that it's going to take a lot of time and energy to do that. In this table below, we're just comparing different distribution channels, and so the first one is distributor. Most of your copies, if you do work with a distributor, they're going to sell through that distributor, and this is your lowest margin out of all of the channels here. So you have a 55% wholesale discount. You have no platform fees because you're not going to be selling like on Amazon or through your website. You're going to pay a royalty. This assumes that your royalty is paid on the net revenues. So let's say if you had a royalty rate of 8%, but you're paying that out on the net revenues, then that would equate to about 4.5%. And that's just if you're a publisher. If you're a self-publisher, you can just put 0 all across the board for royalties. Shipping, the distributor is going to handle that for you. Printing is going to be just your unit cost divided by your price, so that's going to populate automatically, 17% in this example. That gives you a margin of 23%, which you can see auto-populates up in the top right. So you can see the different net incomes just for information purposes here by channel. And then the main number that you're focusing on here is this annual ROI. Okay, I would highly encourage you to fill out this table on the bottom, but this is not really mandatory. There's a concept in business called expected value. So basically it takes the average of a bunch of different scenarios to try to give you a realistic picture of what's really going to happen. So what I did was just create different levels of sales from 5 to 100. Okay, so from 5 monthly sales, we can copy this value in the net present value column, paste that into here. Easy enough. Okay, and then if we do 10 units, copy that, paste it there. We'll do the 20, copy the NPV value, paste it in. 40, copy the NPV, paste it in. Oops. And I'm holding Control Shift and V to paste plain text. Okay, and then finally 100. So once you get more established, 100 is really pretty reasonable. Okay, and then the net present value will be 15,000 over the lifetime of the project. Okay, so these are all the net present values. So if I was lucky enough to be able to sell 100 copies of this every month, then my total profit on this project, after all is said and done, would be 15,619, and it accounts for the cost of capital or the annual APR that you're paying on whatever debt. I would strongly advise you never to take any debt. In 2023, any debt higher than about 10% is really not going to be good debt for you in the publishing business. And so if we take the average of all of these different scenarios, then what we see here is that most likely we're going to get a $5,841 expected value. Okay, so if you take the average of all of these values, then that gives just us, if you take the average of all of these values, that gives us a total expected value of $5,841.49. And then using the same calculation that we have here, we have we have a 23.27% annual ROI. So even taking into account the possibility of some of these more negative situations, then it should be a pretty okay return on investment. Keep in mind that we're not taking into account certain types of expenses, like for festivals, for example, the travel expense, the table fees, hotels. We're also not including fixed expenses like software, rent, internet, and the above calculations assume that royalties are paid on net receipts, not cover price.
So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to download the Publishing ROI Calculator, just click the link down in the description below. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your publishing journey.